is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, boy!
My guest today is Camilla Churcher. Camilla is the Global Head of Business Development at Celsius Network. Hey, welcome to the show, Camilla.
Thanks very much, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it is a pleasure. Now, Camilla, I understand that you are with Celsius at the moment, and everyone knows what Celsius is. Alex Smishinsky, he has been on the show here with me 2 times, I believe. So just before we talk about your role at Celsius, I'd love to get some background from you because you've had quite a career across different areas of finance already. So talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And of course, glad to hear everybody knows about Celsius. Alex is definitely a machine. So I've been with the company just over a year, since March 2020. I moved into crypto in late 2018. So I sort of got the bug and moved across. But before moving into crypto, my background is in traditional finance in the prime brokerage business predominantly. So I graduated in 2000 and started at a couple of Wall Street firms. I was at Morgan Stanley. I actually started out in private wealth management, which was a little bit different, and then moved into the prime brokerage business at Citigroup in London quite some time ago. So that was focused on fixed income and foreign exchange prime brokerage. I was there for a number of years and then moved to New York. If you can't tell, I'm originally from the UK, so I started my career in London. And then I moved to the US to work at Credit Suisse in prime brokerage sales in 2005. And I was there for quite some time covering hedge funds and asset managers in the prime brokerage business across all asset classes. And then before switching into crypto, I was at Bank of America for a number of years as well in their prime brokerage business.
And so, given that you've worked across all these big names, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, and the like, so what was your particular motive or reason for making the switch? What caught you about blockchain and caused you to go down the rabbit hole?
Yeah. So my journey to the rabbit hole was in a few different steps, and I think prime brokerage gets talked about a lot these days in crypto. But I think, not always in the sense that I know the business, and prime brokerage is really quite an operational business. So it's financing, it's access to borrow, but it's also, a lot of operational infrastructure to support hedge fund customers. And I think when I first learned about, blockchain and the cryptography, and I kind of just did some personal learning because I thought it was interesting. It really struck me that this technology would be really transformative just for the financial services infrastructure. That was what sort of first caught my attention. It was sort of less of the Bitcoin maximalist kind of concept. It was really the fact that this was going to, basically gut and rebuild the architecture of the financial services industry, which I'd obviously been involved in for close to 20 years. So that was what made me make the switch. I was also very compelled by the concepts around tokenization and sort of, again, this idea that it would create more democratization in finance. Again, I spent my career serving, the best and the brightest and also the most successful in financial services and the wealthiest investors. But really, not a lot of these, investments can trickle down to the everyday person. And it was, exciting to see that maybe with tokenization, effectively, I guess the next step in fractionalization, more people would have access to some of these, access to real estate or other types of asset classes. So that was kind of what got me going down the rabbit hole. And then I was, had very high degree of conviction that institutions would come. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about institutional adoption, which I think we've now seen start to come to fruition. And because I had such conviction, it was just so clear to me that this was what was going to happen. I guess maybe I was not as early as some, but earlier than quite a few institutions. It made sense for me to switch over, and it was a great time in my career to really kind of roll up my sleeves and learn something new and get involved in building what I thought was going to be a really huge transformation in financial services. And then I guess having been in it now for a couple of years, I think you sort of your eyes open even wider with the possibilities, and really quite how I think revolutionary it's going to be for financial services and broadly.
Absolutely. And well, how did you end up at Celsius then? So what was it, did they come and find you, as it were, or did you find them? Was it a meeting of serendipity? What was that like?
Yeah, I think definitely some serendipity in there. I knew the team at Celsius. We'd had a bunch of conversations at the firm I was at, which was an exchange, which was, LGO, which was acquired by Voyager. So a matter of timing, some serendipity, some good relationships there. And the timing just lined up as the company was really taking off for me to come over and get involved in building out their business development team and help build the client base.
Well, I'd love to hear, I said at the start of the show that, most people are aware of Celsius. And I think that most people listening to the podcast will be aware of Celsius. But, I'd love to hear your personal kind of high-level summary of what Celsius is, what it does, and who it's for.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if the audience is somewhat familiar with Celsius, I really just think of us as sort of the next generation in financial services, really a sort of, again, coming from a Wall Street background, I'm careful about using different terms from a, legal perspective, but really like a crypto bank, right? We're taking this new technology, this new asset classes and bringing, financial services in a different way and really trying to build a platform that's really going to benefit our customer, a consumer, and that really drives the decisions and everything that we do at the company. So I deal more on the institutional side. Really my job and my team is to make sure that we're able to earn yield for our customers. But even as we're doing that, all the decisions that we make, the customers that we work with, the caliber of the customers that we're prospecting, is to make sure that we're able to deliver yield, but do it in the lowest risk way to our clients, and really think about how we build, help people build a new financial future and be, a real service provider in the future, which is pretty exciting and definitely keeps us on our toes.
Fantastic. And so your role is you're the head of business development. And I think you just said that, so a lot of that is talking to institutional participants and just making sure that the Celsius user base can get access to these yields. So we'll talk us through that process. What does that mean and who are you talking to and how do you accomplish that and make sure that users are getting that yield?
Yeah, absolutely. I think yield, and as we've grown pretty substantially since I joined. So the company right now has assets, I think, just north of 17 billion. So we deploy in a few different ways, but really the core way that we deploy is not dissimilar to my prior world, which is effectively lending out the assets on the platform to entities, institutions that have need to that borrow. So the team is effectively identifying those types of borrowing customers, it's global. We have customers and business development people in Asia, in Europe, obviously in the US, finding customers that will have appetite for borrow across a full range of coins. As you know, we support, I think it's 46 assets on the platform. So a lot of the activity we see is in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and sort of the top 5 names. But we do want to make sure we have customers that are transacting and borrowing in altcoins and the broad range of coins that we have on the platform. So once we've identified these customers, they have to go through full KYC, AML, exactly the same way all of our retail customers have to do as well. We'll do a full credit due diligence on them, regardless of the borrow activity that they intend to do, to make sure that, we don't have any exposure to entities that are not creditworthy. Clearly in crypto, basically we're in a completely startup environment, right? I mean, pretty much most of the trading firms, infrastructure providers, everybody's probably, a lot of less than 5 years old. So we want to make sure we do proper due diligence on everybody. And then we'll establish what the parameters of a trading relationship look like, what they're going to borrow, and how much we're going to enable them to borrow. And most of the business we do is fully collateralized. So most of our customers, when they borrow, say, Bitcoin, are going to be posting Ethereum or another asset to us. And we can be pretty flexible. So I think that's a selling point for our platform. But again, we're trying to, lend out those assets and basically just make sure we're earning a spread and then passing as much as we can, up to 80% back to our users and supporting the rates that we publish on the app.
That's right. And look, I think most people, when they think of Celsius, they think of, I think you used the term crypto bank, whether in a legal fashion or not, doesn't really matter. But, and I think, it's a crypto bank for, I guess you would say, mainstream users or retail users, your kind of everyday people, right? But so it sounds like there's, that's just one side of the business. There is this institutional client base as well.
Yes, absolutely. And the other, so the institutions are sort of the borrowing side of the equation, but I would say we have seen a very rapid growth in what we call our corporate segment. So this is, customers who have the same motivations, our retail users. They want to earn yield. They may have a portfolio in Bitcoin, or perhaps they're looking to earn yield on stable coins, but they are an entity. So it could be, we've seen, small, medium-sized businesses, not necessarily blockchain business or crypto businesses, but that have, I guess, started to allocate some of their treasury into crypto and have found their way to Celsius to earn yield on those assets. It's quite remarkable, actually, when we look through that funnel. It's that's been growing quite exponentially over the past 6 to 9 months, and represents a large inflow of assets into the platform as well. So we call it corporate because they may just be companies, some of those, are kind of larger institutions, starting to see some asset managers and hedge funds who come in for yield as opposed to for access to borrow, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, ever since, I guess the last 12 months or so, it just really has been a story of immense growth across the blockchain ecosystem, right? So I'd love to sort of get, your perspectives, any sort of, metrics that you guys watch or any numbers that you're prepared to share in terms of, because Celsius has been growing as well, right?
Yeah, a lot. So, and we do our best, by the way, to try and be transparent. In everything that we do. So we do publish quite a few numbers on our website and on our mobile application. So I will share a few. So I guess the big headline number that we talk about often is our, customer asset base, which is about 17 billion at the moment. Just to give everyone some perspective, that number at the beginning of 2020, around the time when I joined, was about 500 million. So that's pretty astonishing. And to put that in perspective, though, clearly we've been, the market has been appreciating, and our company is crypto denominated. So we ride with the market to some degree. So I think the other important metrics to look at is the number of users or registered users we have on the platform and the actual quantity of Bitcoin we have on the platform. So we publish those numbers as well. So we have 82,243 Bitcoin. I'm just looking at my app here.
Yes.
And we have almost 660,000 registered users or members, as we call them. So all of those metrics have been growing exponentially as well. And I think it's interesting to watch the Bitcoin number because that's obviously a large asset on the platform.
And so what would be I'm not sure if there's such a thing as a typical Celsius user, but how do you guys look at it? And what do you see as the typical user or the one or two users, what are they doing? Are they just depositing their assets to try and earn a bit of yield as their holders?
Yeah, I would say if we kind of just look at the retail side, I think we are well known, but I think we do still appeal and are collecting a lot of market share with, I guess, crypto retail, if that makes sense. So people who are in the space, have assets and are now looking to optimize and are very educated on the landscape. So, we run the gamut of demographics. I mean, actually, I think sort of we have quite a large amount of deposits for the sort of, 50 to 50 sort of year age group, which I guess may surprise in some ways. I guess if you think of wealth accumulation, perhaps it doesn't. But I thought that was an interesting statistic. because I sort of think of crypto as generally quite young, but we do have, again, across the full age range of users. It's definitely, as most of crypto, probably more male than female. So I think, we will make efforts and certainly want to attract more women into crypto, not just to Celsius as well. And hopefully we do that, with our profile as well, and try to recruit and hire female talent as well as guys. So I don't know if that's too general for you, but I think, we're really trying to make our product accessible and promote it to people and bring, again, the next generation of people into crypto and bring them across that barrier. That's the next goal.
Yeah, and look, just talking about the demographics, I am sort of, I'd love to get your perspectives on this a little bit more, Camilla, because, I think you probably have a unique perspective as a woman who has worked in senior roles, across, Wall Street or traditional finance and now crypto as well. And I think, look, it's a stereotype, but, Wall Street and crypto are kind of seen as these stereotypical boys clubs. And, as I think you said, if you think of a typical crypto investor, you do tend to think of a young male. And I know this is changing. So I guess, I'd just love to get your thoughts on, your perspective as a woman and how we do get more female investors, I guess. And do you see this changing from the demographics of your user base?
Yeah, well, we could do a whole podcast on this subject.
Yeah.
Look, I think what's interesting is I think we're seeing some more interest from women. I don't have the latest statistics to share, and I think we will be targeting some marketing and hopefully working on some partnerships that perhaps can target a different demographic. But I think it's quite well known that typically women play an outsized role in sort of financial decisions, in the household. So
yes.
I guess perhaps as we evolve, and I think as we continue down this path of greater awareness, greater legitimacy, with things like the Coinbase listing and greater regulatory clarity, I think perhaps hopefully that opens the door to more women who look at it as another financial resource and not just something that's, a niche and maybe that doesn't interest them, but is actually something that they can leverage. Again, I don't like to make stereotypes. I'm just, again, working with behaviors that we know and that are documented and have been discussed. And I think that there's still an education journey to bring women into the space. And I think as well, from a career point of view, crypto is very male dominated, but I think that's really a function of it being sort of a subset of Wall Street and a subset of tech. And I think it's incumbent upon the entire industry to, show everybody, but, women and minorities as well, that there are great jobs to be had. And you don't need to necessarily to be a technologist, right? Or to have done STEM or be deep in technology or coding. I think, so hopefully we can bring more people in. And it's, I would say, probably a great time to make a career transition, as really, if you think about it in this space, there are obviously experts and people who've been in it for a while, but most people only have a few months on you in terms of their resume.
Sure, that's a good way of putting it. Camilla, I'd love to dig into this idea of a crypto bank a little bit more, and I just more sort of in general terms. So, where do you see all this going, sort of across the next 10 years, as we're going to obviously see the rise of, crypto banks style platforms like Celsius and there's a few others as well. Eventually, the old school banks will have to wise up and compete with this. Then we've got the kind of the fintech line of things, and then we'll get DeFi as well. So we'll talk about DeFi in a little bit, but for now, where do you see what do you see happening with the rise of crypto banks, and how does this kind of impact the financial world?
I think, again, if we just kind of bring it back to the basics, that we're trying to, I guess, just change the model, right? I think, some of the things that we do are variations on what exists already in traditional finance. But I think the most important thing we're trying to do is to, again, share what we make, or share prosperity, or bring more meaningful income or opportunities for wealth creation to our customers. So we've started in crypto. We're using the new technology in crypto. We think there's a huge opportunity for wealth creation in crypto. But I think as this evolves, we'll be looking to add, different products and services. And I think traditional, equities markets and other financial markets are certainly important parts of a portfolio. So I think we'll see, Celsius look to broaden our range of products and services that we offer, which will involve, of course, licenses, things of that nature, so that we're able to offer more products and services. But again, I just think we're trying to change the dialogue with our customers, let them be part of our, journey, and sort of, I guess Alex says also, sort of do good before we do well. And I do think we do have that mission behind the company. Obviously, we're a for-profit company. We have to work really, really hard to be successful. But I think if we keep that constantly in mind, that's going to be a driver for our success and our customers' success. So I think it's licenses, products and services, using this technology, and I'm sure there's going to be many different developments in technology and other things that we probably aren't even thinking of yet, that we can probably capture a lot, be a lot more nimble and capture for our customers than the traditional firms. And what else? Yeah, I think it's sort of 10 years in this space is a lifetime, right? But I think what's interesting with the institutional moves that we've seen is that I think banks are waking up because they actually acknowledge that their customers can actually, have other options. And it's really, that's what's making them look at this space seriously.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, look, Camilla, I said we'd touch on DeFi as well, because, Alex talks about DeFi, and, you guys talk about it on your website. And I saw that, recently Celsius hired a guy called Carl Hua as the chief architect or researcher for your DeFi endeavors. And look, I don't know much about Carl, but I was fascinated to see that he was previously head of engineering for the XRP ledger. And before that, he worked with NASA as an advanced flight software engineer in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Yeah.
No, I think we have a couple of rocket scientists literally on the team, actually. So Carl is a great addition.
So, how do you guys look at DeFi then? Because, Celsius is kind of this, it's somewhere in between CeFi and DeFi, and we need these services, right? Because, DeFi is still not quite ready for perhaps mainstream adoption, right? So, which is why services like, or platforms like Celsius have done so well across the last year. But what are you guys looking at in DeFi, and how do you look to kind of leverage those opportunities for Celsius users?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I would say is, I think, DeFi versus CeFi, I think it really depends how you define that.
Yes.
And I think, really depending on your perspective, Alex would say we're the first platform to ever pay yield in kind, so again, it depends on your definition. I think, I would think one part of the important definition is just the fact that, we know who our customers are, so we do the full KYC AML. But I think what's really key is that we see DeFi as again, another opportunity and a very exciting development in the space. And we see that Celsius needs to participate, needs to figure out what we can do to, whether it's, change some of our infrastructure to make it more decentralized, or to capture these opportunities. And I think, as you mentioned, with some of these DeFi platforms, there can be some great economic opportunities, but it's not necessarily easily accessible for people who are not very seasoned in the space. Again, personally, I really enjoy the experience of using my Celsius app. I'm not necessarily always enjoying using some of the platforms on DeFi, and there are so many steps to participate in some of these platforms. So I think we can play a role in sort of being a bridge, providing access. And also, again, as I said, with people like Carl on board, just figuring out how can we leverage some of these technology and use smart contracts to evolve. So Carl, I think, has been in the company for a couple of weeks, so he's still, I'm sure, getting his bearings. But we're looking for that kind of talent to bring ideas and help us make sure we're staying ahead of the curve.
Fantastic. And I think in terms of staying ahead of the curve, what I find fascinating at the moment, Camilla, is, with the sort of the rise in, I guess, just mobile apps and technology and everything, and then crypto, DeFi, and then apps like Robinhood, and of course, during the pandemic, there was this explosion of interest in kind of, investing and trading, and particularly among young people. So I guess what I'm getting at is it's really fascinating that no one really teaches you too much about how to invest, or financial literacy even at a young age. But now there's this sort of global movement where even teenagers and TikTokers, they're sort of learning by having their feet held to the fire sometimes. But there really is this movement where young people are much more exposed to these kind of opportunities and knowledge now. Do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think it's been a fascinating time, and I think COVID, obviously extremely challenging, has sort of been a perfect storm in kind of bringing some of these trends to a head, I guess. And I think again, these apps and Robinhood and others have again given that sort of ownership, I guess, or sort of sovereignty. In terms of you can own it, you can get a brokerage account, you make it accessible. And then crypto, I guess, is one step further, even conceptually, that you kind of really own this asset, and you can control it. And I think, I think as well as people have been challenged a lot, millennials and I guess Gen Z, haven't had necessarily great job markets or some of the opportunities at certain ages that previous generations have. I think they are looking to take ownership, to self-educate, and it's much more natural to have this kind of tech interface, than sort of interface with sort of a broker or your sort of typical type of banker relationship. So it's just, there's so many different trends and things that have happened that are sort of sort of layered on top of each other to bring us to this point, I guess. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's just happening so quickly that, now we can use platforms like Celsius to borrow and lend. And again, you don't need that old school banker relationship. And yeah, it's just going to be fascinating to see where this goes. Well, let's finish off this part of the podcast just with, like the regulatory environment. We've had the Coinbase public listing recently. Look, love to get your thoughts on what you see happening there, and then also the Biden, the capital gains discussion, Bitcoin ETF. So where should we start? Yeah, crypto regulations. What's your take?
What is my take? I guess my take is certainly for companies like Celsius, I think we would welcome more regulatory clarity. Yeah. I think we want to be here for the long term. We want to grow. We want to obviously service clients, and it's very complicated to navigate. And I think we would, again, we want to work with regulators to have rules of the road, and ultimately it's good for our business, right? If we have good relationships with regulators, clarity, and there are rules in place to protect customers, it will give customers more confidence in interacting with companies like ours. So I think broadly, we welcome it as again, startup company and all of our peers in the space. It just requires a lot of resources and time and energy to try and make sure that we're doing everything by the book and abiding by all the rules in all of the different jurisdictions where we operate. I'm going to say off the top of my head, we have users in something like 160 different countries. I hope that's correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, but and we have sort of some sophisticated geo fencing. Of course, we don't deal with OFAC countries and things of that nature. But even within the US, it's very complicated between different states. So, for example, you can have you can't have stable coins on your Celsius app if you're in Texas, I believe, for example. So again, down to the individual state, we have to, monitor it and make sure that we're on the right side of all the regulations. So I think, we would welcome some clarity. And then I think, capital gains, I'm not sure I'm an expert to speak on the tax side, and I think it's probably a little early, but I think I would perceive Gary Gensler as probably positive. And I think it's just good at least to have people who are very educated on crypto in decision-making positions.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so what would you put the chances of a Bitcoin ETF being approved? I think I can't remember when the SEC they traditionally they string out the decision process until the final day that they can't they? I think it's a few months away at least. But there's always a lot of ETF applications at various stages with the SEC, and well, a lot of people are hoping that Gary will be a little bit more receptive, right?
Yeah, I think, again, this is sort of the $1 million question. I'm going to put if I'm going to put my guess out there, I'm going to say it sooner rather than later. I think there's just so many products launching, so many applications, and I think so many, or increasing number of what I would call household names, putting themselves forward to launch something that, with that will probably be some investors, I'm sure, behind the scenes sort of starting to speak up about it. So again, I'd put again, it's a complete guess, but I'd say it's this year and maybe within the next 6 months. So I'm probably on the more bullish end of it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Camilla. So we'll just have to see.
We'll see.
Last quick question on Celsius, and it's with Alex. How do you find working with Alex? He's such an interesting character, and such a fascinating life story. How do you find Alex?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a lot of fun. I like working with Alex a lot. I think he jokes about it, but I would certainly agree with him when he sort of says he lives somewhere in the future. So I think, sometimes it's helpful to remember that in conversations, he's probably somewhere 9 months to a year down the road, because he which also gives you a great degree of comfort working with him, that he has, such a driving vision, to kind of see what's going on in the space and really where the company needs to be. He's an incredibly hard worker, which, he's working as hard as everybody else, and obviously managing a lot of different areas within the company. So, he definitely challenges us all and keeps us on our toes, but, he works just as hard, if not harder, than everybody in the company. So I think it helps us with the forward momentum. And again, as I said, in this space, it moves so fast, just making sure that we're all on point and on top of every trend and every new development. It's great. And I think gives everyone a lot of comfort internally at the pace we're going, that we really have some strong leadership steering the ship.
Superb. All right, well, let's go to a very quick break, Camilla, and then we'll come back and we'll finish off with the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Not sure what you need? A Brave New Coin consultant can help you assess your requirements. Contact BNC today to find out more. Are you ready to trade the future of crypto today? Introducing Leverage, a self-custodial decentralized exchange that performs with the speed and features you're accustomed to. Leverage is fast. It's powered by Gluon, a revolutionary DeFi infrastructure that makes DeFi work at scale. It brings speed, transparency, and massive gas efficiencies to its users. Say goodbye to exchange hacks, front-running, Ethereum network congestion, and high fees. Leverage is the future of trading. It combines the best features of CeFi with all the benefits of DeFi. Like William Gibson said, the future is already here, but in this case, it's evenly distributed and completely decentralized. Go to leverage.io and trade the future of crypto today.
All right, we're back and I'm with Camilla Churcher. Camilla is the Global Head of Business Development at Celsius Network. And Camilla, I like to finish each podcast with a very quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I guess so.
All right.
Far away.
Just want your hot takes, your hot fire. Take your best shot. Here we go, Camilla. I think I know the answer to this, but where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Oh my gosh. Put me somewhere in the middle there.
Okay, hey, fair enough. Well, Camilla, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I guess we thought about Bitcoin ETF the next 6 months, and all right, we'll stick with Bitcoin ETF in the next 6 months.
Yep, I like it. That is bullish and very good. It will be good to see. But, well, Camilla, Bill Gates, he famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. I know it's a bit of a pie in the sky question, but, you know, what is blockchain, what does the space look like in 10 years' time?
I would say that a significant portion of, well, I guess let's split it into two bits. I think, we think about banked and unbanked. So I think if we think about people who are banked, because I think crypto is a financial inclusion story as well, I think banked, a very high percentage of people will have some form of exposure to crypto, directly, ETF or otherwise. And what I strongly hope and see is that this technology and crypto will open up financial services to more people who are unbanked.
Yes, indeed. Hard to see that not playing out. Well, sci-fi author William Gibson, Camilla, he said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Yeah, go to the App Store and download Celsius.
Yeah, that is a very valid answer. All right, we're almost done here, Camilla, but it's time to get a little bit weird. Time to zoom out. What do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Are we on a good path, a bad path? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
Yeah, I think we've got some work to do to keep the Earth in good shape, but I think I do see, I don't know if it's utopia, but I do see space travel and potentially exploring other planets and things like that. So branching beyond planet Earth, how about that?
Yeah, exactly. Becoming the multi-planetary species before we blow up planet Earth. That's stage one. All right, let's finish this off. Camilla, what is the final question is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, TV show, or universe?
Sci-fi, first thing I thought of was Aliens. Love that whole series, all of them.
Nice.
I know a few of them some people don't like, but I like all of them for different reasons.
Okay. All right, Camilla, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining us today. Nothing else to really say except hand the microphone back and look, give a final shout out to Celsius and tell people where they can go to engage with Celsius and why they should do so.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to, in your best interest, we want to bring yield, access to loans. You can check out our website, celsius.network. Again, download us on the app, Google and Android, and check it out. You don't have to do a transaction, just check out the app and have a look around. And we put a lot of content on our website, and we have a YouTube channel as well. So, get to know Alex, get to know the rest of the team. We all show up in the AMAs from time to time. And try and do our best at explaining what we do and why we do it in your best interest.
Oh, someone was just talking to me yesterday about the AMAs that you guys do. So do you sit on some of them with Alex?
I've done a couple. Yeah, I've done a couple. And it's fun. I think it's also good to, I think those AMAs run between an hour and an hour and a half. So it's kind of fun to mix it up and have someone else from the team sitting next to him. So I think I've done 2 now.
Fantastic. All right. Well, a pleasure to talk to you today, Camilla. Thank you very much. All the best. And we'll do this again sometime in the distant future. Who knows?
Yeah.
All the best.
Exactly. Great to meet you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
All right, well, there you go. That was Camilla from Celsius. And yeah, that was a fun show. I hope you enjoyed that. That's us for today. We are out of here. Don't forget, you can email me, andy@bravenewcoin.com. And do make sure that you subscribe to the Crypto Conversation and whatever podcast app you are using. All right, thanks for listening to the end. See you real soon. See you next time. This was the Crypto Conversation for